Hi guys, if you like this video, please smash that like button. Click subscribe because that really helps us bring you more videos. And don't forget to click the bell and you'll get notified of our latest videos, or otherwise you might miss them. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you.
Okay, we're going to get started here. So we are going to get down and dirty. So when we start doing these converters, here's the new one. So I'll give you a part number here. This is a direct replacement. So this is a WF-895-AD. So this is a direct replacement for this particular rig. This is a Lance travel trailer. So let's pull this out here. So when this goes in, so you're going to have a couple different wires here. So this is these two bigger wires. This is your ground for the 12 volt. So when this takes in the 120 volts from these three wires here, we'll get into those in a second, it pushes our power through here. This is what charges the battery and what charges all our lights, and runs anything 12 volts in the rig and keeps it running well when you're using your camper. So there's a bunch of circuitry and all kinds of different fun in there. But on the one we're taking out of here, what we have going on is this ground was really loose, and they had an event where there was a power surge at a park. The surge protector either didn't do its job, or they whatever it was, the converter didn't react. So we're kind of speculating on what might have happened. But before we do get started, we'll use our reminder is we already went out there and we turned everything off at the pedestal, and we've already validated everything, but I still turn all the breakers off. So this one's going to be held together by a couple screws. So one of the good things is we've already been out here and we've checked this, so we know what's going on with it. But it was kind of weird because when I moved the converter around in here, when I initially was doing my checks on it a week ago, is it was acting very squirrely, and it was giving little sparks off. So now I will tell you, full disclosure, that I am leaving the 12 volt on for the moment, just because it's so dark in here. It would be hard to see, so I have to be careful when I'm taking this apart. And I'm doing that for you guys. It's not how we normally would do it, but you know how travel trailers are. They can be very dark. Okay, so what we need to do to get this out of here, so we have what we were talking about before, so hopefully you can see this, but we have a negative. So let me bring you over. We have a negative right here that we have to take off, and then we have the positive that we have to take off. So this, we're going to pop this board up, because here's our two wires right here that are going to this converter. So we're going to have to pop this panel up lightly to access behind that, and then we'll just pop it back in. And you can see right here there's a tab and a tab, but we'll pop it out from the bottom. This positive here, this is going to the coach. So this is basically everything here. This is going to charge our battery, right? Positive, plus, and then our other negative. So these go to the coach, take care of the lights, take care of getting power to the 12 volts. So this is in, and this is out. Ground out, positive in. All right, and then down here obviously is our converter. We've already undone our two screws. And then over here we're going to have a ground wire going into here. We're going to have a neutral going up to here. And then we have our black wire going into this 15 amp breaker that we're going to take off. and we'll get that set up. So that's kind of the overview of what we're going to be doing here. And like I said, we'll try to give you as much light in this as possible. So first I'm just going to start. So these lugs sometimes are really hard to get off. So if this screwdriver doesn't work, I brought a bigger one that I can get on that lug with. I try to do most of this with hand tools, but see how this is, that one kind of broke off nice and easy. I like it. So we'll loosen that lug up, and then we'll do the same thing on this negative lug. Oh, nice. So those came off pretty easy. A lot of times we're really fighting these, trying to get them off. So now we're gonna push down on, let's see if I can get you in here. We're gonna push down on this tab here and try to do this with being able to let you see it. And now, see that I just kind of pulled that out. And now what I can do is I can get this out here, and now I can get these two wires off here. So this will be the tough one, the white one here. This one will be a little easier. So we're just gonna, if it doesn't come out real easy for you, then what you may have to do is just loosen that up just a little bit more. That should be enough. There we go. Now you can see how that just kind of pushes in that wiring there. And now I can come down to here and we'll get that pulled out. Sometimes you can use a pair of pliers, but generally they come off there pretty easy. So now we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to pull that up, straighten that out a little bit, and we'll pull that out of there. There we go. So next, now this is why it's important. So we've already turned the 120 volt off at the pedestal. So we did that because we don't want to get zapped. So we'll undo that. Pull that wire right out of there. There is our hot wire coming from the breaker. That comes from the breaker and goes right into our converter. Next we have this white wire here. This is our neutral. We're going to take that neutral off there. And last we're going to take the ground, the green wire, off here. That one didn't want to come off. So we'll use a number 2 square head and we'll turn that off there. Alright, so now this converter's off. So what we were finding was in this converter, when I first checked it, this ground wire was loose. And what I think happened is every time I would move this around, and it's super hot still right now, so we were able to get it to work again, but we were getting some sparking right around this area. And if you can see there's a lot of debris in here from over the years. This is a 5-year-old Lance. Very well taken care of, but this is an area that generally the regular RV owner is not even going to mess with. And what you really could do in here, you don't want to blow air through it because you could, you know, particles and things could get on this. I'm from a manufacturing background, and I'll tell you what, I've seen guys spray off control centers and control panels, and that is bad news. That dirt and dust can join these circuits over, or fragments of small metal could be in there. You're not going to see the metal obviously in a camper as much as you would in a manufacturing environment, but you always want to try to vacuum these things out or brush them out with no power to them. But again, this is something the regular RV owners generally not going to do. So here's our new converter. Here's our wires. So now in some applications you will see where there's a third wire. So the old one did not use this kind of a jumper wire, and sometimes what this does is the converter circuit breaker will piggyback and it'll run something else, right? So the converter doesn't draw a lot of amperage normally, so it will. So sometimes you'll see some manufacturers, they try to jump onto this 15 amp and maybe run, you know, a fan or a light or maybe an outlet or a charging or a USB port, something, and it will run. You'll see it jumped into this. This particular one does not have that. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this back through here. We'll try to get this as close as we can and see if we can wiggle this back where it was. Get it in there. So I might have to put you down and here, see if we can get you a little bit of a view. So I think I'm gonna there we go. Pop that off there. And I can get in there a little bit better with it. I'll take the number 2 square head. Oh, I'm not even in there. There we go. I'm like, why isn't that tightening up? All right. So we're nice and tight there. So now remember, when you put your breaker in, I don't know if you can see that, but see how it's got this little hook right here? This goes into the track in here. So it pops in, slides down, and then you have a bar that pushes onto. And now that is seated. And then now that I've got it seated, I'm going to take my number 2 square head again and just snug it up. So now that I have power off to the whole coach, I'm also going to go through all the rest of the breakers. And as you can see, I'm getting a good quarter turn out of most of these. So this is another yearly maintenance item. And you want to go through with all your power removed. You want to go through all your neutrals, all your grounds, and you want to check the wires, make sure that you're not seeing any discoloration, and you want to make sure that everything is snug and tight. Remember, when you're pulling these campers down the road, you're getting a small earthquake, so it's very important that these are checked, because vibration loosens nuts and bolts up, and that's where our ground's going to go. So there we go. Okay, so next we're going to run our ground in. All right, ground in there, unless I was a knucklehead and just tightened it up, which I did. And I'll edit that part out. No, I guess I didn't. See if we can get that back in there. There we go. I know I'm kind of getting you up close and personal there. Let's see if we can. All right, like I said before, the 2 hardest ones are going to be the 12 volt. They're really thick cable and they're not the easiest to line back in, but we will get that for you. Okay. Okay, we're going to loosen this up a little bit more until that seats. There we go. Turn it till it screams. All right. So now we are going to lace our red cable back up in here. We're going to get that back in behind. Okay. So pull that up a little. So now, hope you can see this, but I'm not sure. All right, so now we're going to put that back into the positive. Take our flat head and tighten that up. Now I'm going to do my best. I'm going to kind of keep a hold on that. I want to snug it. I don't want to over tighten it because I don't want to turn this right off the board. So now we'll take our ground cable and we'll get back up in there, push that up, and we'll grab hold of it. Now on this cable, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my multi-tool and I want to try to get this flat part down in here straight. So what I need to do is I'm going to take this here because I want to get a small, just a little bend in it, just to kind of help me along so I can fit it in this small cutout. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that in, get it down in there best I can. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it in and then I'm going to tighten it. And then I'm going to work it into position a little bit better. So once it grabs hold of it, then I can manipulate that cable a little bit. Alright, so now the goal is to get it into that cutout right there. I hope you can see that. Like I said, I know this isn't the best angle, but we're working with what we got today, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, so now we're going to get this back up into these tabs here. There we go. And then push it right back into place on the bottom. Oh, jumped out on us. See, that's joys of working with one hand. That's what I do for y'all. So push back in. I think we got her. Pry that up just a little. There we go. All right, we are seated back in place. So we've got our positive hooked up, our negative hooked up, and we've gone through now. So now we went through and we showed you snugging all these up. Same thing on the 12 volt side. So we're gonna just check these, make sure they're snug. See how that's turning on us a little still, so I'm gonna mess with that just a little bit more and get it seated. But first I'm going to tighten these up. Not a big turn on these. These are just a little bit of a turn. That's good. And all right, they're all tight. You also see these two here. These are called reverse polarity fuses. So what those do is if you get a new battery, or say you take your battery out for the winter and you go and you put it in, and for whatever reason you forgot that positive is positive and negative is negative, and you go ahead and you put it in backwards, these two fuses blow to protect this converter. So that is their sole purpose in life. That's their meaning, and that is what they do. So I'm going to set you back down here. See if I can. What we're going to do now is we're going to get this into position. So in the back there is a track, and this slides right into that track. And then once it's in position, we're going to take the two screws we took out And we're going to get those lined back up in there. All right, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you for a second, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to turn on our main power, but I'm leaving all my breakers off for the moment. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to, as I turn them on, I'm going to turn them all on. The last one I'm going to turn on is the converter. So I'm going to get everything energized, turned on, and then what I'm going to look for when this kicks on is I am going to look for this fan to kind of maybe kick on for a half second. But while I'm out there, I'm also going to grab my voltmeter, and then we'll do a couple voltmeter readings before we turn it on and then after we turn it on. So hang tight, I'll be right back. All right, so now what we are going to do here, we're going to grab our meter. Again, I hope you guys can see everything well. See if we can. All right, so gonna get our screwdrivers out of the way for the moment. And so what we're checking is we've turned our pedestal power back on, so we get our 30 amp. So the first thing I'm gonna do, see if we can set this up so you can see it, is we're gonna go ahead and, this is our main, so we're going to energize that. We're going to put a lead on the ground here, so hopefully you can see the meter. And I have 122.3 volts. All right, so I know I have my power coming in. So remember, we're going to turn all our breakers on with the exception of the converter. We're going to do the converter last. There goes the microwave. I hear fans around here coming on. All right, so AC's on, everything is on at this point. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here. We're going to select DC. So I know that's probably, raise that up just a little. Okay, so what I want to check now is I'm going to put onto the negative and then onto the positive, and I have 12.7 volts. Hope you can see that. So that is all battery right now. So now when I turn on here, I'm going to be looking for a couple things. On a lot of these WFCO converters, the fan will kick on for a quick second, and then after that, but we should see a jump. I'm hoping to see about almost a full volt here, like 13.6 volts, and we'll see what happens. Here we go. 13.7 volts. The fan is going right now on the converter. Let's see if you can hear that. And then you'll see where I have my meter on the negative and the positive. Okay, so now, so remember I said this was the negative, and then this is the positive that goes to the rest of the coach, and it is at 13.6 volts, 13.7 volts. So this converter is working as expected now, and the old converter, which was shorting out, and you literally had to wiggle this thing to get it to kind of kick back in. So there's something going on with the board and the ground and that. And you know, could the customer keep that as an emergency backup? Sure, but I really don't trust it at this point, which is why we changed it out. So we're going to get this cover put back on here. And so now that everything is running, we've gone through, we've tightened everything up inside of there. And so remember, when you have this, your power's off, it's a great time to go in. Make sure all of your lugs are tightened up. The lugs in here are tightened up. All your grounds are tightened up. Your neutrals, it's a good chance to double check. Make sure that all your grounds are with grounds, neutrals are with neutrals. You're not mixing these in. And then go in and tighten all the lugs up on your circuit breakers. So, and the last thing we have is to put our cover back on. So we're going to do that right now. Right. Put our screwdriver here. As you can see, it didn't take too long to do this. You definitely want to make sure you're following your safety precautions and turning your power completely off, your battery disconnect, for your 12 volt, and then you're going to turn off your pedestal power for your 120 volt. And then after you change everything out, just make sure you have adequate lighting. You know, I wear a headlamp, and generally that gets me the light I need, but to do the video we did leave the 12 volt on today. It is not recommended to do that. Okay, so now we've got our power center back together, and just remember, when you're doing this work, just be safe. Make sure you turn that pedestal off. Make sure you have no power at all. You know, use a multimeter, check that power before you start working. Turn the 12 volt off. Make sure you have adequate lighting. Use a lantern. Use you know, I wear headlamps. Campers are always dark, so you guys see me in the other videos. We wear headlamps quite a bit. This is a project that if you feel comfortable with electricity, it's definitely something you could do yourself. We talked in the beginning of the video, you know, different types of converters. So this converter is a changeable converter inside of a power center. There are some converters that go behind the power center or in the basement of a fifth wheel, or maybe under the bed of a motor coach. They're about the size of a bread box. We'll show you a picture of what one of those looks like. And then the one we did today that you saw that slides in under the power center, under the circuit breakers, and under under the 12 volt fuses. Those are pretty common. And then you have some that are hardwired into the power center. So in order to change a converter, you have to do a full power center change. We don't generally really don't like to do those too much, just because they're very time consuming. You have to pull all the 12 volt wires out and then label everything and then reinstall it. But sometimes that's necessary. We do what we have to do. But today, as you saw, this wasn't a terribly complex, but you definitely want to make sure you're doing your checks, make sure that it's working when you're done. Like to hear that the fan's kicking on. The other one, the fan really wasn't even kicking on, as it was under a lot of load. Fan doesn't run all the time on a converter, but you should hear it kick on occasionally, just to let it know it's keeping the circuits cool while it's working on building things back up to proper load. So this one's working good. We're going to call this job done. If you thought this video was helpful, you know, smash that like button before it runs away from you. And please subscribe to our channel. It might not mean a lot to you to subscribe, but it means a lot to us, and just allows us to keep doing these videos. If this video helps one person, then it was worth us taking the time to do it. But if you do enjoy them, please hit the subscribe button, click the notification bell to be alerted about other videos like this. And until next time, everybody, this has been Drew with Mission RV Services, and we'll see you on the next job. Bye, everybody.